Welcome to War Games. We will get you ready for your next sales opportunity. Are you looking to win the sales battle? You have joined the right team. Here on the War Games Group, we take the strategies and mindsets from the most successful salespeople and share it with you. With our help, you won't have to fail your way to the top. When it comes to crossing the minefield of sales, step in the footprints of those that crossed before you. Prepare yourself for boot camp and beyond. It's time for War Games to begin.
Shall we play a game?
Happy Wednesday, War Gamers. Joe Ingram here. I am excited to let you know that we have Mike Moll coming on to our show today. He helps marketers charge what they're worth and remove themselves from daily operations. So he also did say it's going to be hit or miss whether or not he's going to have lights on due to life down in Mexico. But he's going to share with us today. Let me throw a couple VIPs up on the screen so we can say, hey, there they are. Mike is going to come on and show us how to build simple business systems to make hiring more successful. And one of the things we have issues with as a population of entrepreneurs is giving up the reins and handing something over to someone else to say, here, could you help me with this and go through? And how do we hire the right person? How do we make sure we could? I'm assuming whether it's going to be a virtual person or a live person, is your system set up to actually help you to do that? So I would like to do that now. Mike, welcome to the War Games Show. We are live and out there. I've also got us popped up over here off the side of TikTok. So we're going to get some people over there. Tyler D. Preston, he's already here. He was here before we started. So we got this. Joe West is in the house. And a random Facebook user, which for the longest time was me. And so because Mark Zuckerberg and StreamYard were fighting, and they wouldn't let me be known. So as Debbie could attest, I would enter the show as anybody I felt like it. So, and yes, Tyler, I can see you out there on YouTube as well. So, and Netta, look, Joe's better half, right? She is there. So fantastic. Let me move us around on the screen here like this. And I say, Mike, you jump over, take on over here. So I would love to know just a little recap as far as what have you been up to? What are you doing? We got connected through LinkedIn and some people that recommended you highly. So I wanted to say, let's talk about Mike for a few minutes before you jump in and tell us how to do this. And we are live all the way out in Norway. So
love it.
You're now like all over the world. So let's go through. So perfect. Fantastic, Mike.
Great. Well, I'm coming at you live from Mexico, like I was saying a little bit in the pre-show. I've been fully remote for the past 3 years, kind of floating around Europe and Mexico and the US, which has been a fun journey. And it's a place where I always dreamed of getting to, but never actually thought I could do it. I came from kind of a just barely finished high school background and didn't quite fit into the university college situation. I worked for an insurance company for a long time. And then I discovered marketing, which is not what I ever expected to do, not anything that I ever prepared myself for or even had the thought cross my mind. But I kind of stumbled into a situation that allowed me to test it, to try it out. And it turns out that that's my thing. So it was really, really nice to find that, even in my late 20s. And so I've had a marketing agency for the past 9 years. It'll be a decade in March. And we've kind of gone everything from, we started off in the e-com space, and then that kind of went a little crazy with drop shipping. And we've primarily been in the lead generation space since then. So for the past, let's call it 5.5 years, we've been running boring ads for boring businesses to get their phone to ring. That's what I like to say. And then along the way, about a year and a bit ago, I had a number of people in my network just start to reach out and saying, hey, I'm kind of at, this level in my agency and my company and what I'm trying to do, how would you help me get to the next level? And I really hadn't thought about it because I just went through the process testing and iterating and mostly failing, but kind of coming out the other end of it. And what I realized is over almost a decade of doing something, you just accumulate a lot of knowledge. So it took me a while to wrap my head around how to actually tell people to do these things rather than just doing them as I was naturally doing them. But that led me to starting to offer coaching over the past few years. And I have found that to be my passion and the thing that actually drives me more than running an agency. And so I split my time kind of about 30% agency and 70% coaching these days. And it's a great little mix, but yeah, so that's me.
That's fantastic. And I look just like Brad Pitt over the phone. So I would enjoy when people get those leads to come through the phone. That to me is amazing, because that's what my company, that's what we go in and train on, is getting the virtual people to buy something. So that's fantastic, because again, if you look at it, you built the life you wanted to, and now you're calling the shots. And I was going to say, probably all of us that are on this now and the ones out there, we're all doing something that we never thought we were going to do when we went through school, right? Whether we were, by definition, entrepreneurs don't do well in a college system. Okay. It's like, no, you're trying to train me to be an employee. I don't want to do that. And so that makes perfect sense. So if you're looking, a lot of the people that are on the call that are watching and will be hitting us up on the replay, they are the solo entrepreneur. Okay. Or like I've had several people recently that came up and go, okay, how do I get out of doing every step in my business? And so somebody today called and goes, well, we're going to get prospecting done for you and do this and that. And I was like, I don't do the prospecting now. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, so that was a wrong opening line because you didn't ask me anything. But so how would we go about making sure? Because like you said, and I believe a lot of us can resonate with the fact that we're really good at what we do. Not necessarily are we great at training what we do, because it's our overall experience that have taught us what we can and can't do. Now, I love training, and I can take the big complex stuff and drill it right down. And so like my bride, who's up at the top there, she's always that way. She says, well, I know what to do, so just do it. And that was the training method. And it was like, okay, but nobody can do this, right? And they're like, we need to know, what are the steps? What are that? So how is it that you transitioned into being able to define what you need to do? Because when you're lost in the fact that you just know it, okay, and one of the things that I commend you for is that what I found is all of us, once we know something, and now we know it, it's no longer a mystery, we discount ourselves as having that knowledge because we obtained it. And other people are looking, going, wait, how did you get to that point? How did you do that? And you're like, that's easy. I can give that away to you. And you're like, what? And then other people come in and go, why are you giving this away? This takes years for people to learn. And you're like, oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? But we discount it. So kudos to you to say there is a skill set and a marketing capability that I can handle and go through. So how did that transition happen? Because it's here more than anything.
For sure. So it was an extremely messy transition. I came from a scarcity mindset all the way through. I didn't have entrepreneurial influence. I moved out and became self-sufficient at 17. I was always kind of just scraping together, how do I make it month to month? And then you build up a little bit and you're like, great, I've got this tiny buffer, but what happens if? And I think when you're in that mindset, you need to feel like you're the smartest person in the room. You need to be the best at each thing that happens within your organization. And what ends up happening, and what happened to me, was it created a ton of self-sabotage in that I was, driving people away. I was driving good people away. I was not letting people do what I brought them on to do. I was a really crappy leader for a long time. And then I had this conversation. It was really a moment, an epiphany, whatever you want to call it. And it was around a conversation that said, okay, there's these, if you had 10 things that you were doing inside your organization, what are you the best at? What are you an 8.5 to 9 at right now that drives the business forward? And I said, being on phone calls, strategically selling. That's what I'm great at. Next past that is like getting people to get on that call with me. And those two things drive, as you know, in sales, almost everything. And so the argument was, okay, great. So if that's the case, what are you a level 2 out of 10 or a level 3 out of 10 at? And that was like, great. Administration, following up with stuff, sending an invoice. Like, dude, there was so many attention to detail things that I didn't really realize. But when I went to go do them, I had this like pent up frustration before the task even started. And they said, the person I was speaking to said, why do you spend your time getting from a level 3 to a level 5 on things that you're never going to like, you're always going to procrastinate doing, and things that aren't actually driving the business forward, versus spending your time making your 8.5, 8, 9 out of 10 closer to a 10. And it really hit me of like, wait a minute, if even a 10% improvement on the things I'm the best at are exponential growth in my company. So that really like caused me to pause and say, wait a minute, why am I forcing myself to be the smartest at this and this and that when I clearly wasn't? It was ego driving me to say I have to be that, and really just handcuffing people's ability to do work. And when I had that realization, I realized I had a really big problem, a really big one, and that I had to really flip the entire thing on its head, and figure out how to properly delegate, how to build proper systems. So that was kind of the catalyst of it. Oh, you're on mute.
Joe, you're muted.
Yeah, I was looking. I'm like, it pops up here and goes, "Hey, dummy, get yourself off mute." Yeah, and so, but so here on War Games, we have a saying as far as ego stands for edging gross out of whatever deal you're putting together, and so I like that you said that. It was the ego part that says I'm going to hold on to everything, and I try to get rid of a lot of stuff, and it's just, I think my biggest kick point is it's not exactly the way I want it. And so I'm going to hand it off to somebody. I'm going to get 75 or 80%. And I will be the first one to tell you that I will say done is better than perfect, except if I'm doing it. Okay. Because then it needs to be perfect. And so I fight with that internal drama all the time. And so, but how would one get to that point? Because like you said, you realize on a 2 or 3, right? So I wrote down, what am I an 8 or 9 at? And that's difficult because I'm a 10 at all things. But yep. So you can tell the crew knows who's here. But when you look at that, that's exactly what I look at. And I love that thought, because now when I look back, instead of thinking the 10s, right, and go, what am I a 10 at? Then if I add the 8 and 9s, I just added more material that I can put out on social media, and I can go put it out overall to say, here, let's go. Because like we're live out on YouTube as well. So somebody's going to stumble across and go, hey, there's Mike, right? Let's go talk to Mike somewhere. And then you can get to that point. But so you figured out the 2s and 3s, you got to that point. How do you get to the point of actually letting go of what you're about to hire somebody for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's actually a simple exercise of the evaluation that leads perfectly into the next step. So I'll go through it very quickly, but this is something I do with all of my clients, and there's so many interesting things that we unpack with this exercise. I don't even remember where this came from, but what you do is you take a look at your calendar, take a look at the last 30 days, write down every single thing that you did throughout those days, every single thing. Don't skip it. Once a week, twice a week, I go in and I look at, pending invoices. I send invoices. I follow up with this. I check in on this dashboard. I check my emails, everything that you do and the frequency that you do it at. What you then do when you have that giant list, it should be 30, 40, 50 items. You then create 4 columns in a table, and they should have a dollar value at the top of them. $1, $10, $100, and $1,000. And then what I want you to do is grab every single task, and I want you to assign a value to them based on the value of moving your business forward. And what you're going to find is 80 to 90% of the tasks that you do are going to fall into the $1 and $10 columns. The things that like are repetitive, mundane, doing with a high level of frequency, but don't move the business forward. So call that 90%. And then you're going to have 7% or $100, and then 3%. So like one or two things are going to be in that $1,000 column. So outlining that first, and then taking the stuff in your $1 and $10 and putting them in groups of creative work, groups of I need a specific skill set to complete that task, things that are administrative, that are simple, that anybody can do. And then take a look at the groups and decide, you can know in that moment which ones cause you the most friction and which ones that you don't want to do. And those groupings of tasks are the ones that you get rid of first. So now you know a little bit more about who it is that you need to bring in to start alleviating the tasks from your plate. So that's kind of phase one.
That alone makes your visit to War Games worth it. So there you go. That is coming in.
I so agree. That's worth so much, because that is so true. Most of my frustration is in the $1 group, and 90% of my time is in $1 group. And so I love it. I fucking love it.
Awesome. And then what I do, so
yeah, it was
yeah.
late.
And then what I do before I actually create the processes, which I'll go to, but there is a middle step that I think is critical, because you might not be the person to create the process for everything. Now, you do want to create processes for the things that you know enough about and you have the control over. So you want to give that to some of the people entering your organization. But what I actually love to have created within a company is called a customer excellence document. And what that document does, so it's usually 4 to 7 pages, give or take. And the first page is similar. It's kind of a chart again. And the chart looks like there's 4 or 5 columns. And so for me, the columns of an agency is, someone discovers that they have this need. That's part one. The second part is someone discovers us. The third one is someone inquires with us. The fourth one is someone signs up and moves forward. And the fifth one is what happens after they sign up. So that's kind of like every stage that someone could enter within, from the consideration to we're working with them on a regular basis. Within that, I have bullet points of every single thing that happens. So in the consideration phase, when they're kind of, they find our website, they have these frustrations and they're reading our content. They find this call to action that tells them what to do next. They fill out the contact form on the website. Then Mike emails them about a sales call, They sign up, all the onboarding processes, they're onboarded with us. And then, our whatever we do as part of a deliverable on a monthly basis. What I then do is I take every single bullet, and each section has at least 1 page. So the discovery, the lead, they become a lead. Each one has a page, and each bullet is on its own. And what I do with that bullet is I say, what does an amazing customer experience look like that's related to this topic? So for example, somebody fills out a contact form on the website. So what is an amazing customer experience from there? They are left with very clear instructions on what comes next and have some kind of automated message or some kind of automated flow hit their inbox. So I can give that task to somebody within the company and say, hey, this is what I want to happen. Now, I might not build the technical backend, but it's there. But that isn't enough. So that's, column 2 is like, what is the actions that happen that makes a great customer experience? But just like anybody who's ever been, I'll call it, stuck inside of a giant organization that's not run well, we often look at these things that the boss or the leadership or the process wants us to do. And we say, why are we doing that? Like, why is this important? Like, what's the point of that? And the amount of times that I was faced with, I don't know, that's just how it works. It was like, that's not enough for me. It drove me crazy. So the third column is why. Why do I feel like this is creating the best customer experience? And this is where you let people understand where you're coming from. So why do I want this to happen? Well, because they probably discovered us through Google. And if we don't interact with them right away, think about how many times you filled out a form on a website and you're like, I don't know, when are they going to get a hold of me? What are the next steps? What's going to happen? Well, when I don't know what's going on next, you haven't given me anything to move forward with. I might just go fill out that form on multiple other websites because I don't know what's so now we've lost their attention because they don't care about us yet. They have no idea who we are. They read enough. They said, oh, this sounds great. So I want them to get a thing that says, hey, someone from our sales team will contact you within the next 24 hours. By the way, if you want to check out some information on this, here's a blog that explains how this works, or here's a video that shows what this is. If you want to go watch it, go ahead. We'll be in touch shortly. So that's like reinforcing for them. There's something coming down the pipeline. There's something coming next. Maybe I should just stay here and wait for it. So when whoever's building that process, when they understand that why, it becomes very easy for them to be motivated to move that process forward. So I actually create the what I need to happen and the why for every single step as my kind of the second piece, because I might not be able to create the best process to do that. But somebody coming in with an expertise and a skill set, if they know exactly what I want my experience to look like, they can then build that with that guideline.
I had to check, see if I was muted before I jump in. I was like, okay, check. Okay, you can talk. Yeah. So when I look at that, okay, so I mean, I sit back and I say, wow, that in and of itself is a product that can be sold. The SOPs, but I think the unique part about your version is you added the why. And so one of the things that, like for me, when I go in and I'm running something for someone, like for example, if I'm going to build out phone scripting for people on the phone, I'm not the guy who hands you a script and yells at you to repeat it until you can say it. My answer is, look, we wrote it this way because of this. Here's the psychology behind it. This is how it's going to automatically lead the person to an appointment and go through. And so what I believe, because once you have the psychology behind it, you get buy-in from the people that have to execute it and go in. So I love that your answer was you added the why, because if you don't understand from the top what is happening, right? Like everybody says, have a vision so large that everybody else's vision fits underneath it. And so whatever they're trying to get out of life will fit in the vision you're building. But there's great to have a vision, but if there is no why backing each piece along the way, and I'm like, you just gave me so much homework. It's not even funny right now. I'm like, what? Yeah. Now we got to go list off all the $1, $10, $100,000 tasks, right? And then I got to build out, this is the overall one, but like Netta runs a very large dealership. So for her, what is the ideal scenario when somebody finds your page? What is the ideal scenario when they click to submit a form? And then to look at it and say, okay, now that it is, what is the ideal scenario and why do I want it to happen this way?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. And stop and look. I mean, we're all going, this is great. And we're all legitimately successful, right, in what we do. And to sit back and you come out and go, hey, guys, what about this? And we're like, oh, yeah. So, awesome. All right. Okay, I'm done interrupting you. I'm just giving you a chance to breathe.
No, that's great. I love it. And I have a bad habit of just like going on a rampage with speaking. So I'm purposely like, I'm going to shut up for a sec and let someone else say something. So, yeah.
And Debbie, you can jump in whenever you want. Brian's been jumping in and out just because he's got some internet issues. But
yeah, I just concur what you said, because it's almost like just with other things in life, if you just really think it out, what you said is ingenious, but it's really pretty self-explanatory. You know, if you really break it down into bite-sized pieces, what do you want to do for your company that you're really good at? And that's selling. So you now are making sure that you put the right people in the right places so you can go level 10 on selling and growing. So, you know, it was beautifully said, and I love what you're doing. And it does. And I really like checking out 30 days on your calendar and saying, here's where I'm spending my time. And then, like everyone else said, you're in these two columns when really you want to be at the end, you know? So good job. Yeah. I love it. Love it.
Awesome.
It's fucking awesome.
Joe, you missed that mute button again. You're slacking. I don't know.
Oh, that was so great. Yeah. Beep. Yeah. So let's pull it back up. Michael, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
So Yes, but I agree. So Debbie's known for that kind of language, though. So
Debbie.
that a lot on her live.
I'm
I love
so
it.
glad that you guys were recording this, because earlier today, my used car manager was in my office and she was telling me, I don't know what to delegate. I have so much on my plate. She literally comes in at 9 o'clock in the morning and she's here till 9 p.m. And she has all these employees, but we both feel, and I was telling her that I feel also that if I do it myself, it's a lot faster than teaching or giving it to someone else to do it. And so I know how she feels. She's like, if by the time I teach him how to do it, then I would have been done. But then what would that bring? Then that would be forever that.
And what you say is true. And there's a big difference between teaching someone and documenting for someone. And that becomes the difference. And I think a lot of people get stuck in when I have to train somebody, it creates this time and energy friction. And if that person goes away, they don't work with us anymore, training the next person is going to be a nightmare. So, and I did run into that. And so what I started figuring out is like, what is the business system documented so simply my mother can do it? And I literally use my mother to validate my business systems now. It's a hilarious exercise. So the way that you buy back your time ultimately is to take the knowledge out of your brain. A lot of people get really overwhelmed by that idea because you're like, I have so much information. I have so much knowledge. And often when we go to tell somebody, we have the skill set out of 10, the knowledge, out of 10. But we start at step 4 because 1 through 3 is so automatic for us. And so you really have to test your systems against people that have no idea how to do what it is that you're asking them to do, because then you've built a self-sufficient training model that any new person coming in can actually come and do. And my most recent what is that? Not hire. She was already hired, but I don't know my words. Promoted her, yeah. So my publicist, a year ago, my publicist was my house cleaner. And a month ago, my publicist became my operator for my entire business because she possessed a skill set. And we just gave, like, she's
learn.
She's never worked within an agency before. She's never done this type of work. And she's running my entire company operationally right now. Destiny, shout out. She was the one that actually reached out to you guys. So, or one of the people that reached out. So, the way that
right now, she's excited.
Yes. So the way that I think about a system, and I think a lot of people think when I start building this, it's going to be this uncontrollable monster that's never, ever, ever going to end. And it can be until you simplify and organize it. So I don't use any high-end tech. I use a combination of Loom, which is a video screen recording app where your little face goes in the corner, and I use Google Docs. That's it. So I pay $12 a month for my entire operational SOP system. Wow. And so the way that I do it is I start with a master page that says everything within this process. Here's every single component of it. So within my coaching business, what has to happen, right? So there needs to be brand. So that's like website, that's the brand guidelines, that's all that stuff. There's marketing, there's sales, there's onboarding of customers, and then there's ongoing customer management. So in that operational doc, that's it. There's those 5 things. And so from there, what are all the things that are included within them? And I don't go into a lot of detail. I just write kind of like, what are the 5 steps? So somebody comes on board, what happens? They say, heck yes. We need, the administrative team needs to be notified. They need to send them a contract. They need to send them an invoice. They need to set up a client portal. They need to get our first meeting booked. That's it. So those are the pieces of that. And then all we do is for each of those components, those will link out to another Google Doc where we go in depth on how that thing works. Now, writing out every step is important, but I think the thing that works the best, in my opinion, is long form instructional video. The reason I go video over written almost every single time is there are nuances and there are thought patterns that you possess that are very hard to write. So you can say, you go into Google Drive, you look for this folder, here's a link to the folder, you duplicate this, you change the person's name, you grab this link, you put it here, and okay, great. Those are the 6 steps that happen. But what about the variables, right? Are you going to write down every single variable? Like if they, depending on the type of contract, you would do A, B, and C. Like you can, but it's very cumbersome. So what I like to do is just record anywhere from 5 to 15-minute long videos of me following those steps and giving a deeper explanation and my thought process and historically problems that we've seen or challenges that we've faced, so that person can not only know A, B, and C, because knowing A, B, and C is okay, but kind of going deeper again, knowing the why, knowing the subtleties, knowing those little pieces below the surface can really help somebody jump into a role very quickly and have less questions. And so, sorry, is someone going to jump in there? Okay. So it's always, to me, it's always a 1-2 punch. And the beautiful thing about Google Docs is you can create that spider web of links to everywhere it needs to go, including step 1, log into this site. Here's a link to the site. Go through this, go through that. And what you'll find, what I typically do as my primary exercise in doing this is I do a voice recording without looking at my computer by memory. And I hold my phone up on the voice dictation and I say, okay, step 1, you do this. And then you go here and you click on that. And step 2 is da, 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 da. And I do it without any visual help of my computer or what I'm actually executing. What I then do is I listen to the recording and I type out every step that I dictated, one step after another. And then I look for gaps. I look for areas where I may have missed something, like, oh, okay, well, I didn't say it, but what I meant was you do this and then that, but you didn't say the second part. So you find those gaps in the process. Then you take that same thing and you use that step by step, you put it in a split screen and you follow that step in a video format. You're not dictating at this point. You're just, again, you're clicking through the steps that you've written down, because what's going to happen when you do strictly vocal, then written, then video, is you find all the errors, because the rules are you're not actually allowed to do anything beyond what you said in the voice note. And you're not allowed to do anything beyond clicking the button you said to click in the written instructions. So you cannot make any assumptions and you can't take anything a step further. And so once you've gone through that cyclical process like 2 times, you've kind of closed the gap on all the problems or all the things that you forgot about or you didn't identify as an actual step. Then the fun part, and I literally use my mom because it's kind of a fun thing that we do, but find somebody that has no idea about this product service industry, have them watch the video, have them read the instructions, and then be on a Zoom call watching them execute the process for you. Because someone who doesn't have the critical or strategic thinking skill to maybe make an assumption about your next step, they're going to fill in the gaps that you don't know how to fill in or you're incapable of filling in. And I don't like to bring in somebody that has the base skill set, because again, they might make some of the same assumptions and move some of the same processes forward without really identifying them as missed, versus my mom, who's like, I don't understand. It says do this and then do that. Well, I don't see that. I don't understand what this means. And they're like, great, you've really filled in the gap on that. And then once you've done that process, you've basically, I'm sorry, Mom, but you've made a foolproof system now, because anybody can do it and they don't have to have that base skill set. I think the addition of that to my system building process has actually probably been the most impactful, because now someone like who used to clean my house can jump in and become my publicist in a week. Hey, go watch every single video. Here's every system that you need. Here's every process. Here's every script. Here's every whatever. And she just goes. And it was about an hour of training, her watching everything, and she was off to the races. So like that, the power of that, I purchased that time back forever. Even if she leaves and I bring someone new on who's not quite as good or maybe doesn't have quite the same experience, they're probably going to be able to figure this out. And so that's been a huge unlock for me.
No, that alone, that one segment is enough, right? To say, wow, what value. When you look, so one of the things that you brought up was the video. So with video, you can convey the audio, the visual for those learners, and they can pick up, for the kinesthetic people, they can pick up the emotion or the feeling you have behind it. So you hit all three learning styles. And and what I like about that is, if I sent the video over and I said, okay, Michael, I'm going to send you this video. That's Michael, you're Mike, right? So I go to Scarcella and I go, hey, here's the videos. I want you to go watch it. And I want you to come back and show me that you can do it. It doesn't matter how many times he watches it to get it, because it's his understanding level that he has to get through. So I don't have to go, you got to watch it 3 times so that I feel comfortable, right? And go through, it's going to be great. Now he goes in, he can watch it at any point that I get the little brain fade that goes on, and I go, dang, what was that I'm supposed to do with this part again? And then you jump back in and go through. So do that alone. Because right now, the biggest trend now is virtual assistants. Grab yourself a virtual assistant. And with that alone, you can go in and build an army of virtual assistants that will be cost effective for you. Now the world's so much smaller that you could go in and take care of a lot of the stuff that you want, because you've got the video, you've got what you're looking for, and you've got what's there. That's amazing.
And the addictive part is you start to find other areas of your life to deploy this. Like I'm a full-time traveler, so I stay 3 to 6 months in a given place, and then I'm just in a different country all the time. And I hate researching apartments. I hate researching neighborhoods. I hate everything. I have a video SOP for like people who are like travel obsessed who can't go. And I do have a VA who literally dreams up my travel. I have Pinterest boards. I have like neighborhood requirements. I've got checklists of what I need in the apartments. I've got literally everything. So I come back with like, hey, here's the flight itinerary options. Here's the places you could go. Here's the 4 Airbnbs. Here's here's the cultural events happening. Like I delegate just about everything that I can these days. And it's a bit of a game for me. And anything I don't like doing now, I literally just delegate, and it's really fun.
That's fantastic. Okay. So one of the things, so I'm going to go put up on the screen for you. This is the best place to find you for anybody that wants to reach out to you. So, yeah. Fantastic. I think one of the best comments so far, right, was Tyler said, I'm pretty sure I just learned how to run a business in 30 minutes. Okay. And I mean, I'm like, I agree. And for all of those of us that have the business, we just learned how to revamp everything in 30 minutes. And so Tyler wants to know where he should send the check right to you for that one. And Charles Coachman, welcome. And so, wow. That was phenomenal. I'm going to open it up to the VIPs on the screen. If you have a question, anything else. Otherwise, Mike, you want everybody go to MikeMoll.com or .co. Sorry, stop. Don't put the M there. Right.
The guy who owns .com would not give it up. I get it, but we've been at it. He's a programmer out of Vancouver, BC. We've talked many times about social handles and domains. It's not nice.
Mine was a realtor who got out of the realtor game for joeingram.com. He got out of the game, but held on to his domain. And I just kept sending him emails going, ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? But no, he just didn't. He still never gave it up. So now I have to put the Joe Ingram as a website for me now. But that just adds more ego.
Yeah.
And,
so you are the.
It's true. It's a true thing. But I don't want to be the real Joe Ingram. That's played out. So, but any questions, VIPs? Because he's drilled it right now.
I just want to say I just think it's very cool that you're using the video instruction to train people, because not only like everything that Joe said, being able for any type of learner, whether they're visual or they're audio or, whatever, it's also you being able to put emphasis on certain things that in a written way, you you might just read over it, but you can emphasize with the fluctuation in your voice on stuff. But anyway, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. Thanks.
Right. Like click on P7, right? And if it's written, then I may be going P7 on my keyboard, right? And it's going nowhere. And you're like, I said click on it. It says click on it. And they're like, well, how do I use a pen and I click on my keyboard? No. But because I always say that a confused mind will never click submit on your website, which goes back to what you were saying before, is that if they don't know what's supposed to happen, they continue shopping as opposed to waiting. And I always say, how many times did we get someone to our site, and because of the lack of ease or explanation, they leave our site? And so that's, to me, I'm like, oh, okay, great. Make it as simple as possible. And I like that. And that's what you brought in for us, Mike. So that's fantastic. Awesome. With no more questions, I want to give Mike back the rest of his day because he can go out in the sun and chill out. Because I don't know if the air's
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
He needs to go delegate some stuff.
Right, exactly. He's like, okay, now I'm going to delegate a thank you email for this.
Debbie, it's all delegated already. Trust me.
It's done.
I'm completely addicted. I'm forever grateful, but I have the blessing of working around 15 hours a week now. And so it's like everything that I could not do and get off my plate, I've done it because I became addicted to it, and it's it's fantastic.
Yeah, because really, if I understood you correctly in the very beginning of this business, you were really kind of a control freak a little bit, right? I don't want to call you a freak, but I mean, you didn't want to like give it off to people because you wanted it to be done this certain way. And now you've gone from that to the delegation master.
It was extreme. I was a really shitty leader, a really shitty boss, because I had so much of my self-worth bundled up in. And I think it was because, again, that scarcity mindset. And so for me, it was like, if this comes crashing down, I'm not going back to the corporate world, and I don't have a backup plan, and I don't have anything I feel like I could fall back on. So it was really like I was just desperately trying to hold on to anything that was security, anything that was consistent revenue. And I felt in order to do that, I needed to be in control of everything. So yeah, I was a nightmare for a while, for sure.
I like your honesty. Thank you for sharing.
But that means you woke up, right? That means there's chance for the rest of us to wake up from the nightmare of being a crappy boss.
Control freaks and perfection. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yes. I'm going to have to really work on that one.
Yes.
It's so funny. I was talking to our regional GM yesterday, and he says, you have your thumb on them and then tell them, go do what you need to do. How are they going to do it if your thumb on it is? And then he just like moved everything around. I was like, go do it. But I'm holding on to everything. And I was like, that is so true. I do that. So, but
she does like the micromanage. Yeah.
We're all
Happens
learning.
to the best of us.
I actually had a sales opportunity where someone actually gave me that, and I saw it for the first time, where I had a Google sheet and they said, all right, you got to go through this. And just to get the job, I actually had to go through it and be able to show that I was understanding it. And having it there is definitely a great motivation. I don't know why I haven't really been implementing it myself. So definitely going to start using that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly. But so Brian and I have a friend that has a company that does the online videos and testing and things like that. But one of the things when I used to sell that was I used to tell all the employers, well, what if you could decide early before you hire somebody if they're actually going to follow your instructions or not? And it was like, great, you're at an interview. I'm going to schedule your second interview, but I'm going to give you this login and password. Go in here and watch these 2 videos, answer the questions, and then we'll talk about it when you come back for the second interview. Then you can log in and see what they did and if they did it or not. So if they come back and go, they look at you and go, yeah, I loved it. It was great. Yeah, it was, the Google Doc was fantastic. Blah, blah. And you're like, you pull it up and you're like, well, it says here you never once logged in. So right now, not working here, right? Or they come in, but let's say somebody comes in and just watches it 4 or 5 times, and it takes them a couple times to test out with all the tests. to pass, then you go, well, at least they didn't give up. I mean, that's somebody I'd rather have on my team that says, I'm not going to get, miss this opportunity because I can't do this. And they learn. And so, but again, the simplicity of just put the video together, right? And let's not make it easy, people. You got to document everything. Okay. Like he said, you got 30 days of documenting all your stuff to see who I'm going to delegate stuff out to. Like Debbie has a producer for her show that she can delegate some of the stuff to. And then she looks.
I don't want to learn. I don't have any interest in it.
Right.
You do that so I can focus on what I enjoy doing. Yeah.
So I would also pose in that scenario is have the producer document what they're doing for your show. So should anything happen, you can give a video to somebody else to do that exact same
There
thing.
you go. And we can't deny that when Mike originally, I mean, it is an investment of time in the beginning to do all of this, to get the video set and ready. But I mean, like you said, it's more than paid for itself in your time and investment of your time, because now you don't have to retrain every single person. You just, there it is. It's set. It's perfect. It's my mom can do it. Here you go.
So Tyler said, as far as people that could do more, but they aren't sure how they can, and then he negated his question. It may not even be a good question, but so not sure what Tyler wanted me to say. But looking at it, because if you look at it, I don't know what they can do. So here's his follow-up, because he knew I was going to clown him. But maybe when they think they're doing a lot, but they're not even scratching the surface. So if you have all these videos to go in and say, this is your job description, and this is what you're supposed to do, and then you can go back and go, you've already seen all the videos. You know you're supposed to be doing this, this, and this. And then that would help you hold them accountable that goes through. So I have a friend who has a virtual assistant company, and we've been talking, and he's like, okay, what do you need people to do? And I'm like, there's so much stuff. And then I sit down and start writing it out. And as I start writing out what I want other people to do, I'm like, I might as well just do it myself, because I've got to take the time to write it out. And then I'm like, no. And then he sent me a link to his website. And I'm like, I went in and started typing all the stuff into the website to go, this is what I'm looking for. But I now know I need a video that can, I've done like 3 Zooms with virtual assistant companies over this week. And it's like, I'm like, okay, I need to get somebody to do this. But I also have to say, I need to lay it out enough that they could.
Please see Lauren in finance.
Yeah.
Moll, see Lauren in finance, please.
And
You guys don't have to see Lauren in finance. I'll go ahead and mute her. So.
And I think one of the mistakes that I made early on was being like, oh, I'm bringing in a graphic designer. Go, hey, make this thing for me. And they were like, okay. And then like I would get 3-4 iterations back. I'm like, this is garbage. Like these people, I kept thinking the people I was hiring were the problem. And I was like, oh, I need like a legitimate creative brief for the brands that they're going to work for. I need to have a database of all the previous work that we've done with these people, like for this company, so they can just come into a drag and drop templated thing. And whether it's admin or whether it's creative or whether it's running campaigns in marketing, it doesn't really matter. If you don't provide the guidelines in the way that they're going to need them, it's going to feel like it's way more work bringing these people on than it's worth. And it's going to be true.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Very good point. And, to your point, though, too, when you said you were a shitty manager and all of that, when you're not giving direction and people really don't know what you want, then they're producing what they think is going to be okay. And then it is garbage because you haven't been able to communicate what you want. It all works. It's good that you recognize that and you've changed it.
Yeah, and the subjective nature of understanding and how a task works is different. Like somebody could be experienced in doing a task, but they did it for someone else, so this is what they know of it. And you're like, no, that's not, like even running ad campaigns. Like there's a bunch of different strategies for running Google ads. I have the one that I like because it makes my customers money. So like if I have a media buyer coming in, it's like, these are the infrastructures that we're playing within. If you want to take 10% of the budget and do something crazy with it, fine. but like the understanding of like marketing strategy, that's super open-ended and super subjective. So like not having anything documented on that front could be like really big train wreck, because that's customer facing and performance, performance reviewed. So it's like that's got to work, versus someone who's managing an inbox and managing my calendar. That can be a little bit more simple, but again, the subjective nature about how an expense should be classified. They might have done it for someone else who put their expenses in a different classification, and all of a sudden they're all filed incorrectly. Well, that's not nice either.
Exactly. So that's all in the training video for your previous housekeeper who is now that's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that really
cool.
is cool. I love that. That's awesome.
So thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate your time. I'm going to give you back the rest of your day so you can go off and do what you do. Immense value. And I'm so glad your person reached out, your housekeeper / operations manager. I just think, Debbie, I agree with you. That story of how do you do that? And then I challenge everybody to stop and look and say, could you in your business do that? Could you have your structure so built that all they needed to do was time with you to earn the right to go through those gates to get to the point of running everything for you? Because if it's not
so
that
easy, even a caveman can do it.
No,
or Mike's mom. No.
Now the only caution. What's that?
Can we send our procedures to your mom too? Is that something?
Is that the deal?
Yeah.
If you pay her, she'll do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
That's awesome.
Okay, great.
Cool.
So anybody else, I'm going to go put the banner back up on the screen. I suggest you all jump over, say thanks for Mike coming through and doing this. But also understand, guys, that the value that was dropped today was absolutely priceless, because it could legit, as he's living, give you your freedom without impacting the business. And that right there will change everything. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much, Mike, Michael, Debbie, was wandering, Brian that was out too, all the people out in the comment land, like Tyler, Mark, Amy Lee, all of you. Have a great rest of your day, and everybody else, go out and sell something.
Yes, sir.